I do that from time to time before the recordings, and everyone's just like, oh!
I really wish people could see my disgusted face right now.
That's your disgusted face? You really have to get a better disgusted face.
Yeah, your disgusted looks a little
Normal.
Hey now.
Why is your disgusted face licking its own nipple? What's going on?
Oh, well, you know.
Oh my.
When in Rome.
Easy, George Takei.
Oh my.
Oh my.
Hey everybody, welcome to another Retro Game Nut. I am Player 1 and my name is Damien. I am joined with Player 2, Kyle.
Hello.
Player 3, Joshua.
Now with 60% more volume.
And I have a special Player 4 substitute teacher guest, James. And we are here to chat everything all about things in retro gaming, and then sometimes we sneak in some new stuff too. Hi.
What's happening?
What up, everybody?
Not much.
We do not have Player 4 Ben tonight, so in the place of Player 4 Ben, we have Player 4 James on special visit.
I'm tapping in.
In lieu.
And it's not that we love Ben any less. We just prefer to have him do what he's doing tonight. He's working, so we want him to make a living.
Take care of that.
We love you, Ben, but please go work it.
Go
Take
work.
care of that family.
Don't waste time with us.
You're still with us in spirit.
Ben,
Yes,
Ben,
always
I
in spirit.
I don't know you, but I love you.
Oh my.
So, on that note, we are gathered here together today to discuss the. We are gathered together.
We are gathered here today to witness
together today.
Podcast that blesses arrangement that dream within a dream.
High five. That was great.
Hey, take the cotton balls out of your mouth.
Have you the wing?
What I really mean to say here. We are here today to talk about the Sega Genesis Mini. We have been waiting. We have been searching online all throughout the year as to what games would be on it, what it would be like, and now we finally have it. We have mostly all tried it, but we want to look back as to what games are on it and what memories we have to it.
It's been dropped.
The Mini Genesis has been dropped.
And
Yep.
and we've all been kind of staring at it with a certain amount of reverence.
Correct.
No.
Bated breath.
And Kyle
No.
is
Do
doing
not
something
lick it,
unspeakable.
Kyle. Come on.
He's doing
Stop.
something unspeakable. to
Damien,
a
would you
slot.
like to lick this? Would you like to lick it?
You
Yeah,
didn't lick
I
the-
still say what I said in the live show. It's a
Lick it.
very much no.
I'll lick it.
Don't lick mine.
He licked it.
Oh god.
For those listening in.
No, he didn't. There's no residue.
No one's gonna lick it. There's no need for us to lick it. So we have the Sega Genesis Mini, and then I have for my personal collection the original Genesis Gen 1 here, sitting here, and to compare. And we want to discuss the games that are in the Sega Genesis Mini stock. What games we played, what games we didn't play.
It's almost the same weight.
I don't know. Maybe half the weight, but
No,
okay.
the
We got
original
a third
can
of the size here.
Definitely eat like 6 of those minis.
It's
yeah,
really small.
And
I
you
would,
also
I would
have to
say
take into
it's-
consideration thickness as opposed to just area.
What
Right.
size would you compare the Sega Genesis Mini to? What do you think is like that size? Maybe
I would say it's a little bit bigger than the NES Classic, but shorter though.
Yeah.
yeah,
not as thick.
shorter. You're right.
It's
not
actually
as tall.
It's actually about the size of that classic emulator they put out a couple years ago that you got me a copy of. It's a little bit lower profile, but it's about the same area.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at
the Genesis
6 inches by about 4 inches.
The Genesis was a very low built console compared to the other ones.
It was very sleek.
very sleek, downright sexy, if I may say so. I liked the Genesis because, well, you know, my favorite color is black. I enjoyed the style of font. I liked that it had a headphone jack.
I like the fact that the the game slot actually pushes down into it.
I kind of wondered why they did that for the Genesis Mini. There's no reason because cartridges do not go in there.
It's authentic.
Nostalgia.
It has moving parts.
It would be just like if the NES, the NES Classic, instead of it just being a solid piece, that one part would just be able
Just
to
flip
open
down.
up. Yeah, it would just be kind of cool to have that just open up.
Get the old memories of blowing into it to clear out the cartridge.
I want to start this thing.
And the headphone,
there it is.
Headphone volume works as far as the switch itself, but not the headphone itself. You can't plug in a headphone jack, but the actual volume
it goes
control
up
goes
and
up and down.
Yep.
You have the same reset button as it was in the original, and then the same on and off switch. I am really happy with the way they designed it. It looks just exactly like the original.
It's identical. It's
Yeah,
just
it is.
in almost every
Even
way.
with
microscopic.
high definition graphics on the top.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think we understood what high definition meant in 1989, but
high definition. It's
Well,
not just for the 80s anymore.
Now it actually is high definition with an HDMI port.
That's right. So HDMI plug-in is still micro USB. There is, as of right now, from what I know, no actual hack for it yet. And I've been keeping an eye out for it. I was just kind of wondering what the hackers might come up with. But so it comes with 42 game stock.
That is correct.
Yes.
James, you have the list in front of you. What do we have in there?
I do. We have Echo the Dolphin. We got Castlevania Bloodlines. That was creepy, Kyle. We got Space Harrier 2, Shining Force, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. Woohoo! The always classic, disgusting, horrifying to play Toe Jam and Earl. Comic Zone, the ubiquitous Sonic the Hedgehog.
Woo!
Altered Beast. Gunstar Heroes, Castle of Illusion, World of Illusion. Those are both Mickey-based Disney games. Thunder Force 3. Super Fantasy Zone. We got Shinobi Return of the Ninja Master. Streets of Rage 2, which, old school one for me, honestly. Earthworm Jim, which, my God, Earthworm Jim. Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Woo!
Contra Hardcore. Core, C-O-R-P-S, because it's clever. Land Stalker. Beyond Oasis. Ghouls and Ghosts. Alex Kidd in the Enchanted Castle. Golden Axe. Phantasy Star 4. Street Fighter 2 Special Champion Edition.
Ooh.
Mega Man The Wily Wars.
Wiley.
Yep.
Dr. Wowie.
Dr. Wowie.
Dr. Wowie. Sonic Spinball. Vector Man. Wonder Boy in Monster World. Virtua Fighter 2. Elysia Dragoon. Columns. Dynamite Heady. Strider. Kid Chameleon. Light Crusader. Monster World 4. Eternal Champions. Road Rash 2. And 2 bonus titles. We got Tetris and Darius.
Boo on Tetris.
We tried most of those games. Josh, you have a very strong feeling on Tetris, and I know you're coming up to the Tetris tournament. So go ahead.
Yes.
Tell us what you think.
I'm very looking forward to that tournament. I was looking forward to playing this game, and after playing it, I was less than happy with it.
It was awful.
It was horrible.
It was really bad.
What's the big issues? What's the differences?
Since you didn't actually play it in this version, I can describe it as this.
It was just horrible.
It was toilet paper. And it should
in
be
our rating
flushed.
system, it was horrible.
It was bad.
You don't
And
even do
you ever-
a one and done.
You ever
Yeah.
you ever tried to piece together a torn piece of toilet paper? I get that.
Yeah. You can do it. It can be done. It just why?
Just wash your hands afterwards.
And the thing that really grinds my gears now, before, it was just a game that was on the Sega Mini, but then when I looked at the site and at the bottom they're saying plus 2 bonus titles. Now, if they just kind of threw that in for free, okay, I could understand that, but they're actually advertising Tetris as, hey, we're so awesome, we're giving you this extra game, and it's not a great game.
It's
Yeah.
definitely the weakest one out of the library. Absolutely.
For anyone who's experienced in Tetris, usually you have 2 buttons to rotate the pieces. Now, obviously, on the Sega Mini, the controller has 3 buttons. Well, the thing is that usually one button will rotate a piece one way counterclockwise, and the other will rotate it clockwise. You can't do that in this.
Right.
Both buttons both rotate it, I think, counterclockwise.
So you got to go around the horn
yes.
every single time.
It's ridiculous.
Now, on the NES version, it makes sense because every 10 lines you go up a level. It goes a little faster.
Yeah.
Well, in here, it kind of randomly started going faster. I was playing through it, and all of a sudden it starts going faster, and then it starts going really fast. And I was able to keep ahead of it. I was able to stay alive. And then all of a sudden it starts slowing down. It slowed down again.
Mm-hmm.
No indication like, okay, hey, you're not clearing enough lines. I'm going to start speeding it up. No, there was no indication whatsoever. And because you can only rotate the pieces one different way, eventually once it starts speeding up again, it ends up getting clogged and then you end up losing. But there was no consistency to the game, nowhere compared to pretty much any other Tetris version I've ever played before.
I want to dissect something. Big surprise. I want to dissect something. So with you, Josh, as an example of a gamer, in this case, we have Tetris. You are picky about the control. Now, as far as the control, where you said you can do on the other systems, or I should say the NES, counterclockwise and then clockwise for the controls. In this particular case, it can only go one way. Would that be such a big deal had you not played the other ones? Is it that the NES version has now spoiled you with the fact that you can do those controls that way, or is it the fact that you could typically work that way if you wanted to master it like that?
Well, I don't believe it's just an NES or Nintendo exclusive. I think most of the Tetris versions I've ever played use a method to rotate pieces one way.
So they were all that
another.
way. Okay.
Yes.
And this is the only version that does not have that ability to turn it clockwise.
The only one I've experienced yet.
Okay. So besides that, I would say from my experience when you and I tried it, the music was horrible. The music, and if I'm going to dissect the music for a second,
uninspiring.
It was not of a Russian-based song that we are used
Yes.
to in the other versions. This is a very Sega Genesis, more modernized music style that didn't fit, in my opinion. You had a nice backdrop. You had like a sunset or like the beach or something crazy weird like that. But it seemed to me that it didn't fit. And when I think Tetris,
Right.
I think of a Russian style game.
Am I the only one that whenever they aren't playing Tetris and the song pops in their head, it's only good for like 2 minutes and then you just want to tear your hair out? But if you're playing Tetris itself, you have to have that music. You have 3 other options. You never use them. You only use the base Tetris music.
I'll tell you something. One time I was stuck on the... this is a very traumatic event for me to describe. I was stuck
Big T or
on
little T?
It's a Small World for half an hour.
Cal, you're the devil.
Oh,
Half
no.
an hour, and the music didn't stop.
He didn't turn
Did
it
not
off.
stop. And everybody in the boat...
That's 29 minutes too long.
Everybody in the boat was going nuts. They wanted to tear their hair out. I will see that as forever a traumatic thing. But yet, you can't picture any other song if you don't go on that ride. You have to hear it. If you go on it again, you have to hear it.
I would say that's traumatic with a big T. No.
Yeah.
The only
Yes.
thing that saves me whenever that song pops into my head just randomly is an old YouTube video. If you guys look it up, it's called "The History of the Soviet Union Put to the Tetris Music." So whenever the song pops into my head, the phrase that keeps going through my head is, "I am the man who created the blocks." That goes around. It just saves me. It just makes me laugh, and then it gets it out of my head because it completes that song in my head, and then I can move on.
I have a similar situation with Christmas music and Black Sabbath. I kid you not.
Would you like to expand on that?
Generals gathered in their masses, fa la 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 la, just like witches at black masses, fa la 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 la.
Good job. Good job.
That's pretty good.
So as we can tell, music is very important here in this case.
Yeah, it is.
And so Tetris missed the mark on that with the Genesis version. Now, the gameplay was more or less the same, except the controls weren't there. Other than that, go into the other games. You guys, what else did you feel was a great nostalgic trip when you played it?
Okay, you said great, so I'm not going to talk. Josh, go.
Josh, go.
Really? You didn't have anything on there that
He said
that called out to you?
He said great.
I did say great.
And
Yes.
I have a traumatic. So go.
Well, wait. Let's hold
He's-
on for a
he's-
second
he's-
there.
He's holding back.
Hold on a second. I just told you guys my traumatic event. Let's open up here. I already know my traumatic
Come on,
event. I
spill
know
it, Kyle.
Kyle's. So why don't you relate to us?
This is a safe
What it is.
space.
There's a reason why there was a when he said a specific game. It was called Echo the Dolphin, and it's always because of the drowning aspect of it, because it always made me so like anytime I drown. And I couldn't just get past it. I couldn't find the right path to get through the caverns. I couldn't find the air to go through it. Then I always felt so bad for the dolphin because he died.
I understand because I mean Ben and I connected on it on one episode on Sonic where the same concept where you're in the labyrinth zone and Sonic is down in the water. Yeah, and then it just drowns. That is the most
The worst
stressful
noise.
10 seconds of your life as a kid.
Yeah.
I agree. When I play Tetris and we get too close to the top and that music just starts speeding up, it just freaks you out.
James and I just talked about that. We heard we were reminiscing on a song in the Super Mario World
Mario
game
World.
where I won't sing it, but it speeds up and there's nothing happening except you're.
It's fast from the very beginning.
It's
the
one of those
beginning
levels.
level.
It's one of those levels that's eliminating from left to right, and you're moving along with it. But it sounds like the way an old Mario game did when time was running out, and it stresses you out.
And you started panicking a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I understand. And music can be a big thing with that in gaming, where it stresses you out, as well as the downfall of possibly drowning or dying on a time limit.
I just found it ironic. Like, Echo the Dolphin came out at the same time when everyone was like, "Save the whales, save the dolphins," and that's no, it seriously did. That's why they released Echo the Dolphin, because they capitalized on dolphin being in tuna fish and all sorts of other things like that. Yes, I did just say tuna fish. No one have a heart attack, please. But simply put, it was funny to me that you would have a dolphin in a dolphin game trying to say save the dolphins, and then you'd have kids accidentally killing dolphins.
Well, I mean, I can't imagine a game where you wouldn't actually die. You know what I mean? I mean, they would have to. It wouldn't. Would it be a game?
I would say it
But
works.
Kyle was ahead of his time in that point. Like, now, somebody makes a game like that, someone's triggered. But back then, it was just like, forget it. He's dead anyway. But Kyle was ahead of his time. He's like, not the dolphin, oh no.
He was the
Wow,
successful
thank you for making
test
something
sample.
little girl.
No, not a little girl. You're a good, sensitive guy.
So out of the other games, I would personally say Sonic the Hedgehog for me, as most of you know, is one of my
classic.
favorites. Yeah, it touches a very soft spot for me because it was my first game on the Sega Genesis. Reminds me of a lot in my childhood. Going back to it when I did plug in the Sega Genesis Mini, I couldn't help but feel the same nostalgic feel, even though I played it 100,000 times. And couldn't say anything wrong here because Sega made it, and it was accurate. The emulation was good. I appreciated the fact that the menu itself to the Sega Genesis Mini was similar as you would expect with the SNES Classic, NES Classic, and the menu would just be, the games laid out. You do have an option to look at each of the instruction booklets. You did a little research on that, Josh. What was your take on it compared to the NES and the SNES ones?
Well, as I was doing a little bit more research, I was thinking to myself, a lot of these old games, you really had to rely on the manuals. And especially with these emulations, you really don't have a physical manual to work with. So I was doing some research. I go on to the Sega Genesis site for the Mini, and they have all the manuals in there. And at first I thought to myself, wow, this is a really unique concept. But then I was thinking to myself also, well, hold on, let me check with Nintendo's site first and compare it. So I go over to the NES site as well for the Classic, and they have all the manuals in there. They're beautiful. I mean, I have my computer hooked up to my big screen, and I zoomed in very far, and there's no de-resolution on any of the scans. They're beautiful, but then when I went over to the Sega site and I looked at them, and I'm just going to say...
I have it up right now.
If you work in engineering...
The laughter is merited.
And you've been in the field for maybe, at least 10 years, you know a bad quality scan when you've seen one. Now, there are some of them that do have the cover art or the front of the booklet in color, on the scan.
Yeah,
Right.
Kyle has one up right now for Echo the
And
Dolphin.
I think the one that kind of actually stood out for me most was the Darius or Darius. That one actually was full color, and that was actually a really nice scan. But most of the rest of them, they really look like someone they found a clean copy of the old manual and just slapped it onto a copier and then took a copy of it.
Yeah, the Darius one actually looks like how the NES and the SNES
Yes.
would actually be, with full color stuff. Actually looks really, really nice and detailed. But the other one's just like what Josh was saying. The front cover has some color to it. Is a pretty
Maybe.
good picture. But then the rest of it looks like if the background was supposed to be a nice clear blue sky with the clouds rolling through, it looks like you're playing at nighttime. It's
Right.
just really weird.
You just see random pixels.
Yeah.
If you try to zoom in, the text starts getting a little blurry, hard to read. And I feel like they could have done a little bit better with that.
Now, as far as the controller goes, this was one of the things that I wanted to compare myself. Kyle has both versions. He has the one from the Mini, and then we have my original from when I was a kid. Original.
Wow, the D-pads, even though this is worn, obviously, because you played it a lot, it actually feels still really solid and springy.
Yeah, and I think that it was well made, and I really appreciated comparing the two. I will say this firsthand, it is extremely similar. I cannot find a flaw in the Mini.
But now I'm not sure if your original one, if it's through use, if the buttons are just squishy over use, or if it's supposed to be that way.
No, it's gotten squishy.
No,
Okay,
I
definitely.
remember from back when I was a kid, like I had friends who had NES, and then I had one friend who had a Genesis. And I remember picking up the controller and going, "This is substantial. This feels like I could hit a guy with it. And I could still play."
I could grab it by the cable, swing it around, and just smack him in the face with
I
it.
just lasso a goat with it, and I'll be fine.
It's kind of a dumb comparison, but I kind of felt a weird sense of nostalgia when I held
Yeah.
the Xbox One controller, because it was kind of in that same, uniform to your hand feeling, whereas the PS4 controller, while still good, it just didn't feel the same as the way the Xbox One controller felt. And then I compared it to the Sega Genesis. It just kind of wrapped around your palm. I appreciated that because I got used to this. Now, I know people complained about it. They wanted the 6-button controller. That was different. It didn't have a full long grip the way this 3-button one did. But I think they still plan to make a 6-button one, to my knowledge. Is that correct?
Well, there is already one that is out. It is in Asia. I know in the Japanese release it was. But the nice thing about the Mini is that it is a USB port for the plugs. So if you are able to import one, it still may work as it's intended to work as a 6-button controller if you're able to import it in.
Right.
I don't know of any plans of them releasing a 6-button one in North America, but here's to hoping, because that's the controller that I remember is the 6 buttons.
Yeah, and I would assume that if it gets hacked, then everybody will want that 6-button controller for all the other
absolutely.
games.
Absolutely.
For all the fighters. Now, as far as fighting games, we have Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, and then we have Eternal Champions. No Mortal Kombat. No. There was another one. Primal Rage was a big one.
They got Virtua Fighter 2, though.
They did get Virtua
Yes.
Fighter 2.
That's
which
the
was
one I
good.
remember.
That's kind of a big deal, that game, because that was a CD-based game. I mean, it was technically before, and it to get it on a cartridge, that was kind of a big deal, with the graphics mimicking a 32-bit, even though it was a 16-bit system. They really pushed it, I feel, with that game. While there was some slowdown, the frame rate did drop substantially. I feel that it was pretty well done, and it was a big hit.
Going back to the controller itself, obviously it's well based for such a thing, but I don't think it's out of bounds to mention the fact that the controller, they kept it the same size. They miniaturized the actual console itself, but Nintendo had a relatively small controller even to begin with, so shrinking it wasn't something that you wanted to do to begin with. But this thing is nearly the size of the console itself.
It's actually a little bigger.
It's a little bit wider, but but call me crazy, but I like the bigger controllers.
I
They're
do
more
too.
ergonomic. They feel better in your
Yeah.
hand. One of the things I like about the Switch is the fact that your Pro controllers are bigger, and if you don't have a Pro controller, your Joy-Cons, you can literally put your hands at either side of your body.
Love that.
And
Yeah.
you have that freedom of movement. Those tiny controllers having to have your hands literally like you're a squirrel with a nut. Why? You cramp up, man. Have some space.
We actually discussed that a little bit with our Game Boy.
We did. I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just have it up in front of your face, and you're literally holding your thumbs in front of your nose.
Yeah.
Because you were so focused, and just, it didn't matter. That screen was right in front of your eyes.
Welcome to mobile gaming.
There you go.
What would your guys' choices be as worst controllers that you've held? Now that I can throw that out there.
I would say probably. You guys might hate me for this, but the original Xbox.
No,
No,
that's fine.
I'm with you on that one.
Okay, good. Because
See,
that's an example
I might
of
be
too
the only
big.
one that disagrees with that because it was
You
big
like
and
the
it was
big
bulky.
ones.
I feel like it
I
was
want a
too
controller
big.
I can kill a man with. All right.
now, I did like it because it had the nice, the two-handed feel to it. It had all the buttons in the right places and everything. But it felt so large and heavy and big. But when you compared it with the original PlayStation controller, it was much more compact. It had almost the same exact buttons, and it was just so much more comfortable in the hands. Now, I know the Nintendo 64 was a little bit weird because it kind of had the three-pronged, design to it. If you give it to someone new, they're like, well, do I hold it with both hands on the sides? And like, no, you have to have the left hand right here in the middle.
Something tells me they went through a lot of focus groups with that, though. Because, like, you looked at it really weird, but within 2 minutes, you're like, okay, I got this. There's no big deal.
Once they figured out that trigger in the middle, it's like, oh, that's how it is. Okay, perfect.
I think I have one that'll beat that. The Virtual Boy.
That would be my pick.
That looks
was the
looks like an
stupidest thing.
outboard motor for a boat.
Why is there another D-pad where my right thumb would go? Like, I mean seriously.
It's like before they made joysticks, so they had to be like,
Yeah.
how do we go up, down, left, right, and forward, back, and diagonals?
all that for
all
what the
different
graphics
dimensions.
were just not.
I know, it's horrible.
it was
But as
horrible.
far as the controller itself design, I don't know. I almost feel like you're just judging it because of just the Virtual Boy as a whole.
Well,
but
look at the handles. They're so
I didn't
long.
mind the
That's a
Virtual
whole
Boy.
hand.
I honestly didn't mind the Virtual Boy. It was just the controller.
you
that
just,
was about
you
it.
stick with the thumbs. You can only use the thumbs on that thing.
Yeah, you use the thumbs, but the way that you would have to go in to hit both of those buttons right there when you're trying to do something, you actually have to go, because the thumbs are at a good position going straight up for the D-pads, but then your right thumb has to really go at like almost a 90 degree to even hit B.
Absolutely.
So it's really uncomfortable.
What I remember is the fact that I had to take my eyesight out of the Virtual Boy console sight
Just to
visor to actually look at the controls real quick every time, and I didn't like that because it didn't feel natural.
Now, say what you want. I know I'm going to get just a ton of flack for this. My least favorite controller?
Flack. Sorry. Yes. What?
OG NES.
No, I was about to say that. James, I was
well,
about to say that.
I'm a gripper.
No,
I'm a
me
gripper,
too,
and
me
it
too.
hurts.
I love the NES to death, but if you go for that NES controller, it does not feel right. It feels like I'm holding a chocolate bar. I mean, it is. It's essentially the chocolate bar size, but
And
it just feels weird.
It has
It's
no
blocky.
rounded edges.
I know.
So like in my middle fingers, I'm gripping it like this, like I'm holding a gun, right? So my fingers are up on top of
Right.
the square,
His
but
index
my
fingers.
my middle fingers are right at the corners.
Yeah.
You ever
Piercing
play
into your corner.
You ever play Punch Out while you're trying not to panic and you have no idea how to beat the guy in front of you? You're gripping that thing.
And then you're wondering what's flowing down your arm, and you look, it's a river of
It's
blood.
blood. Exactly.
So were you much happier with the SNES controller then?
Yes, absolutely. First time I played Super NES, I was wondering why on earth they didn't do this the first go round.
I definitely do prefer the SNES over the NES.
I wonder if it might be because they never initially designed it to be held that way. It kind of seems like everything is right there. You can have it sitting flat and be able to use the buttons that way.
You think
'Cause
that
I've
you were supposed to use your fingers, not your thumbs?
I've seen speedrunners that actually play that way. They put it down on their lap and they use on an SNES controller because they use their fingers to do multiple button inputs.
Quick little tap, 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 tap,
okay.
tap.
Yeah, and I think maybe it was the first go on the Famicom was too, but their controllers were that way too. That
Right.
was just the North American version of
Right.
it. they didn't really know how holding the controller like that, or how people would adapt to holding a controller. So maybe they initially intended it to be down and be playing like that, but then realized, oh, people are holding it like this. Let's make it more comfortable for the hands, which is why they rounded everything.
And then let's
I don't
add a turbo
know,
button.
but that'd be kind of cool. I wonder if that might be true. I don't know, but that's kind of the logical place that my mind goes to.
But then
I'm weird.
triggers, dude. Triggers.
The NES didn't have triggers.
SNES did.
though.
Which again, though, why they might have changed it because of holding it. Oh, okay, well, now we're holding here. We have 2 more placements for someone to put 2 buttons.
Like when they realized that nobody was going to put the stupid thing down.
Yeah, exactly.
The NES did have a second gen, and it was the NES top loader. They had what they called the bone controller, and it was very
the
similar.
joystick?
I have that.
No, it
it's
looked
wonderful.
it looked very similar to the SNES controller. It just was the 2-button. It was gray with red buttons,
But it was rounded on the
but
sides.
it was rounded. It
where
was
was
the
this
best
when I was a
feeling.
child?
I want to say it was like 92 to 93. This version came out, and it was top loader NES, and it was a different one altogether.
So they put it
it's
out
rare.
after the Super?
It was during the time the Super came out.
Well, would you look
That's
at
what
that?
it looks like.
And Kyle pulled it up here.
Yep, that's it.
And they call it the bone controller. That one was great.
Because it looks like a bone.
It did. It looked like a dog bone.
So what you're saying is I need to go murder my friend Jared for not buying one of those.
You could do that. You don't necessarily have my approval. Anyway,
Hell, you could throw rocks at him, but just don't kill him.
He's very tall.
Exactly, throw a rock.
Go for the knees.
David and the Goliath.
Exactly.
So out of all the controllers, I will say the Sega Genesis is one of my favorites. The hardware's great. What specs do you have, Kyle, as far as what we're looking at here? I want to say it looks almost exactly to the original as far as plastic is concerned. I'm not going to go into that, but it looks so similar.
The kind of plastic is plastic.
Oh. Go figure. Okay, got it. So plastic is also made with other plastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's running the regular operating system that the other NES and SNES are running. It's a Linux-based kernel software. All the systems are a what they call a system on chip. Basically, like if you've ever heard of the Raspberry Pi, it's kind of the same thing. What it basically means is instead of like a computer that has a main motherboard and then you have the components that you put in, like a video card, sound card, or Ethernet cable, or all of that, everything is integrated onto one system chip, onto one motherboard. Basically, your hard drive, your flash memory, your CPU, all of that is all on one thing that can't be upgraded. That's what it is, and there's nothing much else you can add to it upgrading wise. But it does come, this is kind of the cool, the storage space is actually 512 megabytes. That means that if we actually get this thing to be hackable, you could put a lot of stuff on this thing and be able to kind of customize it any way you want.
Am I the only one that hears 512 megabytes and almost laughs until they realize how tiny the games we grew up with really were?
Yeah, we
Oh
talked
yeah, those
about that
16-bit
once.
games. Oh yeah.
It's ridiculous how much is on a cartridge now that we can fit on a.
You talk about PCs, you say
I mean,
512. That's a text
I mean,
file.
we have a micro SD that could go up to like
A terabyte.
terabyte now. Yeah, and so
I mean, they're expensive, but they're there.
but it's doable.
also worth it.
yeah.
So worth it.
But I mean, Damien's posted something on the Instagram, and I know we've talked about it in another podcast before, but the actual full-size file of the original Super Mario Brothers on the NES was how big, Damien? Do you remember? It was like a couple kilobytes.
Yeah, the Super Mario game was about like 42 kilobytes, something crazy like that.
And so when he posted the image, it says this image is like 100 and something megabytes.
Yeah,
It's
it
way
was
bigger than the actual game
the
itself.
actual game itself. Yeah, which is crazy.
So these
Psychotic.
games, they're 16-bit.
Right.
You're going to be able to fit a ton of extra stuff on here if it gets hacked. The only thing that I've been reading up online about the hacking aspect of this thing is that they're thinking that the RetroArch might be the best thing to use and not staying as the stock emulator for it.
Oh, by the way, looked it up. 31 kilobytes
31 kilobytes for
31
Super Mario
kilobytes.
for
Brothers.
Super Mario Brothers.
The entire game.
Wow.
Yep.
And a picture of it is way bigger than it's
Well, nowadays high res and picture size and all that.
Well, yeah, but still, it's just the fact. It's just crazy how small things were back then of being an entire game. So like I said, I'm not quite sure how big the games are on here or how much space is left on here, but 512 megabytes, that's a significant size to be able to put a ton of games on here. We might be able to, once it's hacked, put the entire library on it.
Well, consider the fact, like, are we talking North American library or are we talking full library?
Full library, probably.
Full.
Okay,
course.
because
I mean,
you're
the
looking
NES
at 699 licensed games plus anywhere from 50 to 100 unlicensed just on record.
I mean, on the NES, you can hack it and put the entire NES and you could hack the NES and put the entire NES and SNES library on it. On the one of them. That's how much storage space, even though it's so small, we think about it, that's how small the games were back then.
With
It's
that
insane.
wonderful controller you like.
And nowadays, one game is like, what, 80 gigs?
Minimum.
So on the system itself, just to wrap up here, the features, we have a background wallpaper border you can change. You can do save states. No rewind feature, unfortunately. But other than that, I would say it's pretty solid as far as the features go. What I would expect for all these miniature emulated games.
And what's nice, too, is that they have a built-in go back to home button or button combination to be able to not have to have a home button on it, but you just hold, what is it? You hold start for a while or for a couple seconds and you get a pop-up menu that allows you to do it.
And that
so
enables you to have that same vintage feel about your controller.
yeah, exactly.
Right, without having to add any sort of feature like a home button, like you said, anything like that. That would alter such a great-looking controller. I think it looks great.
You'd like it because it looks like a batarang.
It really does.
You really tapped into it. I think that's really it is. Yeah.
Just put a little, like, a couple ears on the top by the cable, and you're all set.
Then you get
I
to talk
think
like
you
Adam
really did
West the
tap
rest of the
into
night.
it. I think you're right. That is why I like it.
It's just like the original.
And it's black.
Yeah.
Comes in black.
And sometimes very dark gray.
Sometimes dark gray.
And no voice changer. You got to change your voice like this every time you use it, and then you have to get very hard.
Where's the Sega?
Yeah, exactly.
Where's a safe state? All right. So you have all the features that you need. I can't wait to see this thing hacked. I know it's probably not the best to say, but hey, I want it. I want my hacked Sega Genesis.
He wants more Sonics.
What games would you guys say, to wrap up here, would be your picks as far as what you'd like to see on here? I know you could fit the whole library potentially, but which ones would you like to see?
Sonic and Knuckles. An actual interchangeable, being able to put Sonic 1 into a ROM of Sonic and Knuckles and make that work. I know it's still hard to do that now. You might have to do like individual ROMs of those combinations, but still a combination of Sonic and Knuckles in the Sonic games would be awesome. I've always loved that.
As for me, I really didn't get much of the Sega Genesis experience, so I do know some of the main titles, Sonic the Hedgehog, of course, but
Obviously.
yeah, I really don't have anything that I know of unless I were to port something over from maybe the Nintendo library.
Boo.
Yeah.
Battletoads.
Oh,
Toads.
And Double Dragon?
No, just the solo.
I've never done that one, so that'd be kind of cool.
16-bit version, because
Yeah.
we're used to the 8-bit, you and I, Kyle, for the NES.
It
Yeah.
existed.
But it did.
existed.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I would say personally, I think I might agree with you with Sonic and Knuckles, but I would venture to say probably Streets of Rage 1, which for me was weird that it didn't actually include it. I get number 2 is more popular, but Streets of Rage 1.
No, the reason why I was like freaking out while you were talking right there is because this dude here had Sonic and Knuckles and never thought to go, I wonder if I put this game on top of it, what it'll do. He never put the other Sonic games on top of a Sonic and Knuckles cartridge.
I appreciated Sonic and Knuckles for what it was, Sonic and Knuckles. I knew you could do that. I just didn't see a
But
need
Knuckles
for it.
was part of 3.
If you knew you could do it, why wouldn't you do it?
Because I was waiting to beat Sonic and Knuckles first. Okay, you have to
and this was
understand
before
about
the
me.
internet.
You have to understand something about me. I want to beat the game originally as intended first, and then I will go to DLC and bonus content. I just didn't, didn't get that
It
far.
was cartridge. There was no DLC.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. though.
Wait, there was.
That was
just
DLC
not,
for its
Just
time.
not in North America.
Yeah, we didn't have the additional features that you could plug whatever that drive was underneath the thing to make it CD-ROM accessible and all this.
And then
fancy-
accessing the Nintendo satellites and everything for
Yo,
the
dog,
game
I heard you
updates.
liked cartridges, so we put a cartridge on your cartridge.
so you could cartridge while you cartridge.
Yeah. We'll
Nice.
end it with that. Let's do what we normally do here at Retro Game Net. We have come up with the very best way to rate a game, or in this case, system, in terms of replay value and overall interest of the game. We will say either showcase it, which means you love it, you adore it, you want to tell everyone about it. One and done, which means you tried it the one time, it's not working out, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to let you go. Or you flush it, which is going to be the toilet paper that, I don't need to get a description of, but it's really not good.
Can I add lick it?
No, you
Oh,
can't. I know how much you like to lick cartridges and hardware, but no. Let's go with a round table here to say what you guys think of it. Kyle, you want to start first?
Yeah, it's obviously got to be a showcase it for me. It's going to be something that if you have the NES, you have the SNES, you have the PlayStation, they're coming out with the turbo graphics, all these mini consoles that are coming out. It's just going to be awesome as you collect them all to be able to have a little showcase of just everything that's going to be out there. I'm just going to come out and say it. I know we're probably going to do other episodes in the future about it. All the minis, if you collect them all, are always going to be a showcase it because it's going to be a great display of retro consoles in a miniature form that's just going to be just awesome to look at.
Agreed.
I was not a Genesis guy. Growing up, I had one friend who was a
Hey.
save it. Wait for it. I had one friend who had a Genesis, and I remember it was like the coolest thing in the world playing the Genesis. But honestly, I never got a whole lot of chance to play it. So with the release of the Mini and having more options of playing that on a regular basis without having to find an old school Genesis that still worked or playing an emulator, I'm going to have to say showcase it because this gives me more of an option of playing games I've honestly never really had the option of playing before. Nintendo's ubiquitous. Every household who has a console has had a Nintendo more often than not. But not every household has had a Sega unless you were somewhere between 1990 and 1993 and that was your console of choice. I was not that guy. So I get this opportunity of getting some completely new gaming going on. So showcase it.
I'm completely with James on this one because I didn't have a Sega. I experienced it a couple times visiting some friends, and that was my biggest experience with it. So I really don't know the game library. I can't really compare the mini version with the original, but I do appreciate that the controller does have the USB port to it. Mm-hmm. So you can actually use this controller for connecting to your computer or pretty much anything else that it'll drive to. So on top of that and everything else, I would say showcase it as well. Add it to the collection, and eventually when we get Ben back and we start talking about the turbo graphics, we can connect them all and make a Megazord of classic mini consoles.
I really, really hope that they do a mini 64, and something that,
Dude, I will get totally behind that.
And
100%.
and then something that I can understand of what James and Josh was saying, a Sega CD mini. Because I was in the same boat. I didn't have a Sega CD when I was growing up. I had a friend who had them, and we went over there and played it all the time. We played the Knights game, the one where you're flying around and going through the rings and all that. I never had it myself, so it would be really cool to be able to have that and do what James said, be able to have that, get some gaming time behind it, and actually start to enjoy and start to love those games back that were back then, to be able to get a full experience of it. So I can get what you're saying with it, and that's what I'm hoping to be able to experience in the future if that's being released.
Well, it's a really interesting thing. I mean, we're from similar generations where we were all back during console wars of one type or another. But let's face it, you play a Nintendo game, you know it's a Nintendo game more often than not. There is a few cross-platform games, but Genesis had very unique games. You knew you were playing a Sega game.
Yes.
And how often do we actually play a game that we haven't ever played before or anything like it before? And that's kind of exciting.
That's also why I'm excited about the TurboGrafx coming out, because I've never touched that.
Oh,
so the
dude, you're in for
TurboGrafx
a
Mini
treat.
is going to be awesome.
You're in for a treat.
Yeah, Ben's going to be really excited for that.
Yeah.
So what about you, Damien?
I'm going to say showcase it. I really, really think that the Sega Genesis had a great selection. It really came from an era where the pros made up for the cons of the SNES system. It was a very arcade-driven console where it had a lot of games that were based on arcade. Now you have it in HD all together. I can't wait for it to be hacked, but in this case, I'll take what I have here. The console was perfect, so I will definitely say a showcase. And I say keep it going with the Turbo and all other systems coming forth. If it's Sega CD, whatever you want to do from there.
What do you think of the menu music?
I didn't really particularly like the menu music. It was a little bit weird. That would be my only complaint. Other than that, it was good. And even then, it's okay. It's just I particularly like the NES classics and the SNES ones better.
Yeah.
The retro music over, I don't know, kind of similar to that weird music that the Tetris game was playing.
Maybe not that bad, but yeah.
So
Almost.
Here comes your big T.
I am the man who replaces the
But you know
blocks.
what? It comes in black. So it fits with the theme of your showcase.
All that matters. Coming up for us before I wrap it up, we have on October 13th the panel at LA Comic Con.
What?
We are really excited for it. We have a very special guest, Dr. Andrea Letamendi, and she's going to be the psychologist that we have on the show, and we're going to talk about psychology and gaming. And we're going to have Kyle and Josh and myself there.
I'm going to get a little bit more into how Mario is a sociopath.
Ooh.
Do it.
Because Odyssey, I finally beat Odyssey, by the way, people. And that has some interesting evidence in it.
And now we have to fit that into the timeline as well.
There is evidence of where it could fit.
There could be a timeline part 3 that we do.
All right.
There is a lot in Odyssey.
In
mess
LA Comic Con, we will now be announcing that it is room 301A. So that's where you'll find us on Sunday at 11 a.m. on the dot. Again, room 301A.
And for the first about 40 or 50 people that go into the room, we actually have some free gifts for you guys if you show up.
Con swag.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Always con
The
swag.
sweetest swag.
That's the only way to con. is
And
to have
it'll
some swag.
And to give a hint, you'll be able to use it at other cons.
Ooh. If you want to know what that
Intense.
is, you have to find out at the panel.
Intrigue, daddy like.
So other than that, October the 19th, that particular weekend, we will be in Portland, and Joshua, Player 3, will be there competing in the Tetris tournament that's there. Come join us. I don't remember the address you told me, and I didn't write it down, but
It is at the Oregon Convention Center. I believe there's another video game-based event happening,
Okay.
and the Tetris tournament is a part of it.
okay, so we'll be there for that weekend. We may do a live show out there. I'm not particularly sure if we're going to do that yet, but I will let you know on our social media, of course, as usual. So you can reach us at retrogamenightpodcast.com for our website. If you want to reach us on Instagram, retro_game night, where you can find all our announcements and everything coming forward. And until then, I say, stay saucy, people. Stay saucy.
Sega.
All rights reserved.
Are they really reserved? Because they're not really like
I have no
a thing
reservations.
anymore.
I have no reservations.
Now, be honest, Damien.
They're kind of separate now. On their
Was
own.
Sonic the first one you loaded up when you started up the Sega?
Of course it was. You know it was.
This is private information.
Don't reveal my intimate feelings.
Wearing pants. Con swag.